Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of History Lessons. My guest tonight is multi platinum producer Tone Capone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, man.
No doubt. A lot of history. We want to take it all the way back and then work our way up to what Tone Capone is currently working on in 2025. But for those who may not know, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Berkeley and raised in Oakland, North Oakland, that is.
Okay. Take us back to some teenage years of North Oakland.
Man, well, I grew up across the street from Bushrod Park. You know, I lived there pretty much from I'd say about 79 till, oh man, I think I moved out maybe in 93, 94. Yeah, and I mean, it was some good days, man. Back then, we was having I went to Berkeley High. It was a very um, diverse school. I met a lot of people mixed with different races, and we really didn't have wasn't no real color lines or anything. Nobody wasn't really a racist school. You know what I mean? It was a pretty diverse. Everybody talked with each other, and it was a good way to grow up to me.
Great. Take us back to some of your earlier music influences before you got into music yourself. Who were some of the people you were listening to?
Well, when I really think about it, I was around my cousin and my aunt, and they used to play a lot of, I'd say it was kind of mostly borderline jazz and soul. But, I mean, the Crusaders, you know what I mean? Earth, Wind, and Fire, Parliament, a lot of Kool and Gang. Um, you know, BB King. I mean, it was just a lot of good soul music going around, and the Jacksons, Jackson Five, and Pleasure, and just Donald Byrd, just a bunch of different diverse borderline jazz soul type stuff.
Mhm. Dope. Now, around your way, around your teenage years, growing into an adult, what were you witnessing in the area as far as the music scene?
I mean, back then we had a lot of record stores. You know what I mean? So we were able to go in and look at records and tapes, and and shop, and buy the latest albums that were out that were on the radio, and um, you basically, even some 45s, but albums were a little bit more valuable to me, just because you got more with the album, because you got the picture, the artwork, and all that stuff, and then you got to see the credits on the back of who's playing what, and and I had a lot of friends around me that were getting into DJing, and I had the one of my friends, he let me use his turntables, and I started messing around, and man, I fell in love with that.
You
Next
remember?
thing I know, I was trying to buy some turntables and a mixer.
You remember about what year that was?
Um, Maybe like 80,
Okay.
81. And then I had a friend that I went to school with who's a producer also in the Bay Area. His name is Nick Peace. He did a lot of Andre Nicotina, Jacka and the Mob Figures. He did a lot of stuff with them. He was one of my classmates, and we became, pretty much real good friends, and we started DJing parties together.
Okay. Would you say that he was kind of like a mentor earlier on for you?
No, he wasn't a mentor because I had already been learning through some other people. It was just me and him just happened to be the ones that came together and started doing stuff together.
Okay.
So we both were kind of, we were kind of equal. We weren't. Nobody was ahead of the other one.
Right.
I'd say I started producing before him, because I do remember showing him how to use the SB 1200 and how to hook up a Apple computer and sequence everything on Performer. So I do remember kind of like showing him that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, we used to just DJ at different functions. We used to do our own parties. We used to DJ out in San Francisco together. A lot of fraternity parties. Being at near Cal, and I had some friends that were in fraternities out at Stanford. So we were doing all that kind of stuff.
Talk a little
Lake Merritt Boathouse. It was a bunch of stuff we were doing.
At what point did you start to transition from DJ into producing?
Like right out of high school, about 85. About 85, I started messing with drum machines and 4-track machines and, recording. And back then we used to have to scratch through the whole drum track because we didn't have samplers yet. So you had to scratch it, cut it in with the 4-track. Man, it's a whole different way than they do it now.
Right. So you were making pretty much Paul's tapes earlier on?
All that, yep. All that. Pause button mixtapes, yep.
Okay. Talk a little bit about that creative process.
Well, because we started out with one turntable and a tape deck. So basically, all we were doing was, it was before we got a mixer. All we were doing was, queuing up the record, playing it to a certain place, and then finding a place to cut it at. And then we either cut it into the instrumental section of that song and then cut it into a different song or something like that.
At what
But
point?
we definitely started from the ground roots of it all.
Right. Now, at what point did you discover the SB 1200?
The 1200, my manager had one, and I think I just borrowed it one night. And I remember the first beat I ever did, I had sampled that Curtis Mayfield Future Shock. And man, after that, it was just like, I stayed up all night messing with it. I remember I was on the floor and just into it. After that, I said, you know what? I got to buy me one of these. So I started hustling to get the money up. And I finally got the money up and bought one.
Mm.
And then right after I bought it, I ended up getting busted because somebody had told on me. And I had a job, so basically at that point it was like, okay, no more hustling, work and make music. And I just stopped going out. All my friends would be trying to get me to go out with them to parties, and I was like, nah, I'm staying in. I'm, working on this.
Right.
And they never thought, they didn't know. They just were like, dude, why are you, you know what I mean? Why are you spending all this time doing that?
Right.
But I was having fun. So, it wasn't no problem to me. I was enjoying myself.
Right.